In this video, I want to give you 8 tips on how to speak more effectively and better in front of a camera. Because chances are, if you're watching this video, you're either brand new to YouTube or new to content creation in general. And I remember when I first started making videos, the hardest thing for me to learn was learning how to talk to a camera. Now, ever since my first video, I've probably made hundreds of short form videos and maybe a dozen of long form videos. And these are 8 tips that have helped me personally find my voice on camera. And so hopefully these can help you find your own voice. Tip number 1 is don't treat your camera like a camera. And what I mean by that is that most of us, if you're new to this, you're probably in a room by yourself with no one around and you're just talking to this object, this camera, by yourself. And that can be a very unnatural feeling. In fact, you might even feel a little crazy. I know I felt crazy doing it. But you need to remember that you're not talking to a camera. You're still talking to an audience out there. I'm talking to you. And I'm only talking to you through this camera. So while it might feel unnatural and weird, you just have to remember that you are still talking to somebody. So a couple of things that I do to help me kind of get over that and remind myself of that is, 1, I'll let my kids run around me as I'm recording. And yes, it can be very distracting, and yes, it can be very noisy, but then it reminds me, as I'm talking to the camera, I know in the back of my mind, my kids can hear what I'm saying. And so I want them to be able to hear something that's coherent, something that makes sense, and I want them to hear a message. So in essence, they are kind of my audience that is here in the moment. And the second thing I like to do is I like to get a picture of a person that I like to talk to. For me, again, it's my kids. I'll put a picture of them either on a phone or something. I'll stick it right next to my camera. And every now and then when I forget or I start feeling really nervous, I'll just glance at it really quick and remind myself that's who I'm talking to. That's who is listening to me. Tip number 2, this is one thing that I still kind of struggle with myself, but if you are an anxious mess like me and you are just flooded with anxiety, you tend to talk very fast. I know I do. And so when you're recording yourself and you're talking to the camera, you need to intentionally speak slower than you normally do. Now this can be very weird to get used to if you're normally a fast talker, because when you purposely slow yourself down, you feel like you're almost talking in slow motion. But it actually sounds okay when you hear it back or when other people hear it, right? You just spend so much time and you're just so used to talking so fast that when you slow it down, it feels so slow. But trust me, it's not slow. That's just the way you need to talk. You need to make it intentional and you need to slow it down. Now, this only applies to long form content. Short form is all about talking as fast as possible. So that's the totally opposite of what I'm telling you. Number 3, don't script your stuff. Use bullet points. Even for this video, I have bullet points of what I want to talk about. Because when you make a script and you try to memorize a script, it's just more likely for you to fail and for you to mess up and just become this big jumbled mess, and you're trying to memorize everything and it just doesn't come off very authentic when you're trying to read a script. Number 5, do not read from scripts. Use bullet points and then leverage your experience and your knowledge to talk on those bullet points and to expand on them in a more genuine and authentic way. Because right now, on every social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is, authenticity is selling. So you need to be speaking from an authentic point of view and not from a script. Now, if you're super nervous in your first video, you want to make a script, that's okay. Write it out and reread it over and over again. But then when it comes time to actually shooting, throw that script out and just work off your bullet points. And hopefully, after reading that script so many different times, you can remember the talking points in your mind, but then you won't necessarily need to lean on it. Another thing about scripts is that it's just too rigid, it's too locked in, where you just can't be flexible with it. Sometimes you forget lines, sometimes you jumble or mix up lines, and you just gotta learn to work with it and just let that flow. And you just can't do that with a script where you have to memorize everything word for word. Tip number 4, this one kind of also ties into how to just speak better publicly in general, and that's to avoid filler words like and like, and you know. A lot of professional speakers avoid filler words like the plague, because filler words are just exactly what they sound like. They just fill in the gaps, they fill in the silence because you're just uncomfortable with it. But if you use it too much, like, you know, too many filler words, it's gonna take away from your main message. And that's why you want to avoid filler words. And if you need to pause and you need to take some time to think out your next thought, take that time, embrace the silence, embrace the pause, and avoid the filler words. Let the pause work for you. And if anything, adding that pause to your speech helps you come off a little bit more confident in yourself and in your speech. And especially if you're presenting in front of a lot of people and you can avoid using filler words, you're gonna come off a lot more in an authoritative position. So embrace the silence, embrace the pause. Number 5 is maintain good eye contact. Now this takes a little bit of practice because again, this is just a very unnatural feeling having to stare at the lens. And also if you're like me and you have a camera that has the pop-out screen and you can kind of see yourself on the screen, don't make it a habit to look at yourself on the screen. Turn away from it and look at the lens, because this is how you make eye contact with your audience, and this is how you make it more personal with them. You don't have to maintain eye contact the entire time. In fact, if you were to do that, it comes off a little creepy. Here's a fun little tip. If you need to collect your thoughts and you need to think it out, you need to kind of look away for a little bit, that's okay. But at the end of it, you want to end your thoughts with eye contact. It really just drives that point home, and it really just delivers it in the perfect way, I think. A lot of us like to think and we kind of wander around in our thoughts and we're trying to collect what that next thought needs to be. But once you find it, make sure you deliver it. And the only way you can deliver it is with that proper eye contact. So this one probably takes a lot of practice, but that's okay. You can do a lot of practice. Which that actually leads me to my next point, number 6. You need to put in the reps. Talking to a camera is just like working out or playing a sport or playing a game. If you don't practice it, you don't get better at it. So I encourage you, just record yourself randomly throughout the day for maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes at a time, and just talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you're driving to work, right, and you're 10 minutes away, hit record and just talk about how that drive went. If you are leaving the gym, record yourself for like a minute and just talk about how your workout session was. These can just be practice sessions. Nobody else needs to see it except for yourself. It's just for you to get used to this unnatural feeling of talking to a camera. There's this really great quote by Alex Hormozy where he says basically, if you want to be good at anything, you need to do it so many times where it's just unreasonable for you to be bad at it. And what I mean is, if you can talk to a camera, if you can record yourself 100 different times, you're gonna be pretty dang good at it. It's gonna be hard to be bad at it after doing it that many times. And then if you do it 1,000 times, like the chances of you being bad at it just seems like unreasonable. So that's what that means. You just gotta put in the reps and you just gotta practice. Your number of reps might be different from somebody else, but who cares about them? Focus on what it takes for you to be good at this. Number 7 is don't filter yourself and don't dilute yourself. I think there's a lot of us out there who are brand new and we feel like we have to copy whoever the next big guy is, or we need to do the exact same things that this guy does because he has 1 million subscribers, and we spend so much time copying other people, we never really find our own voice. Another favorite quote of mine is that your audience is out there and they're waiting for you. But the only way they can find you is if you put yourself out there. And if you spend so much time trying to copy somebody else, you will never be truly authentic and you'll never be truly genuine to yourself. And your audience is never going to find you. So that's why it is so important. Don't filter yourself, don't dilute yourself. If you want to say something, say it, right? Just don't go very overboard with, don't be dumb about it, but put yourself out there. Put your best version and your genuine self out there. And trust me, if you speak genuinely and you speak from however you want to speak, your tonality and the way you talk is just going to come out way more natural than if you're trying to copy somebody else. So just be yourself. And lastly, remove the pressure. Enjoy the process. It's okay to mess up. Screw perfectionism. Even during this video, I've already screwed up a bunch of times. But guess what? I can edit it out. I can cut those sections out. It's okay to screw up. Don't put this unnecessary pressure on yourself to be perfect. Just record yourself, just talk, and then just learn to enjoy the process. Enjoy seeing the progress, enjoy seeing the improvement, and enjoy seeing the growth. Because that's what makes this all worth it, is watching yourself grow. So just remove the pressure. Just do it and just learn to have fun with it. And it's just gonna be a way better experience for you. I can promise you that. Another thing about the pauses, if you need to pause a lot, if you need to use a lot of pauses in between your thoughts and your sentences, that's okay. This is YouTube. You can edit out a lot of those pauses. It's okay. Don't feel like you have to do everything correctly or perfectly in the first go. You can edit it. You can edit it. So don't stress about it. So those are my 8 tips. These are the things that I've used personally to help me find my voice on camera. I'm not the best. I'm not perfect. I'm still figuring my way out. But these are the things that have helped me. And so hopefully these can also help you in finding your own voice. Help this out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.